Welcome to the Radiantpreneur Rising Show with me, Jess Tomlinson. Interviews to inspire a new movement of leaders and entrepreneurs. The ones who lead with vulnerability and authenticity, stand in visibility, allowing themselves to truly be seen, are fierce and playful and sexy. Choose business as a spiritual practice. Seek collaboration versus competition. No, giving back is not an option. It's a necessity. They do it their way. They radiate. They rise. Now, let's rise together. All right, welcome back everyone to the Radiantpreneur Rising Show. I'm Jess Tomlinson. I'm so excited to be here with you again today with another background. If you haven't noticed, I've been jumping around places because as I've mentioned in the last few shows, Ben and I are in transition. So we're now living with another friend while we look for our perfect place here in Las Vegas. And today I'm really excited it's like new beginnings is like the theme, because I have a brand new friend with me today, Leanne Vogel, that I'm so stoked for you guys to be able to meet. I was looking through her Instagram this morning, and like I just told her before we hit record, she's just like my type of people, and you guys are so gonna love her. So welcome, Leanne. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jess. This is so great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So the one question that I always start with is, how are you currently? And I'm like super excited for you to answer this because I know a little bit about what's going on for you. But how are you currently leaning in to your visibility edges in life and business right now?
Leaning in for me has been absolute complete surrender.
Mm,
And learning how to be in a space of surrender. It kind of started when Hurricane Dorian was about to hit where our boat was, and the path was like, Category 5, your boat's gonna be ruined. You can't move away from it. Your steerage is not working, and I live in a boat full time. And we're like, surrender. There's nothing that I can do. And that just started this momentous lesson. It's like the universe was like, oh yeah, Leanne, you want to learn about surrender? So I would say for me right now, like honoring my edges and going to that edge and just being soft with myself has really been seeing everything with grace and ease, and just constantly like I surrender. And that can be really hard as somebody who is a very type A, got it all together human being. And I've always been that way. And I was chatting with my mom the other day, and she said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, nothing. She's like, but what's your plan? And I'm like, I don't have a plan. She's like, are you okay? And so I think surrender for me has been so huge over the last couple of months, and will probably continue to be for, I think, at least a couple more weeks.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I so can relate. And I'm definitely the type of person, like, I'm realizing more and more being with my guy, Ben, how, like, I never really thought that I was that type of person, but because he's kind of on the extreme of like go with the flow, I'm like feeling my like, oh, what's our plan? What's our plan? Like, I'm feeling like I have to take responsibility, and it's like my whole older child thing, and it's like exhausting. It's really, really exhausting. And so I'm with you. I'm trying to really lean into the surrender and just noticing that it's like I can do it on my own, but when there's a dynamic, like
Yes.
that's my edge right now. It's like, oh, how do I actually do this in a dynamic and give myself permission to not have to be that person? Oh, it's like so hard.
It's so good that you mentioned the dynamic too, because I find with my own like spiritual path and really, grounding myself, I'm great by myself.
Yes.
But when people start to add into the mix, whether it be your partner, your kids, or your dogs, or just random human beings, and all of a sudden it's like, no, I can do this. I can do this by myself. I got this down. But like, don't screw it
Yeah.
up. So yeah, I think that too, and just learning that dynamic has been really huge for me as well.
Yeah, that's like the true spiritual path, right? I remember like one of my teachers here, she used to go to India all the time, and I was getting certified in this thing called Diksha. It's basically just like a blessing, like you can give a blessing. And she was telling us that her teacher was like, the true spiritual path is being around people. Like that is the spiritual path. Like you could go and like meditate on a mountain. That's like the easy shit, right? Like
Totally.
it's
Yeah.
doing life with people.
Yeah, the life part, especially in India. I think that's what's so beautiful about India. I spent some time there
Mm.
on
Oh,
my
you
25th
did?
birthday. I went there. It was supposed to be
Yeah.
2 weeks. It ended up being a bunch of months. And,
Oh
and
my
the beautiful
gosh.
thing about India is that there's so many people that you have to go with the flow, and you, again, have to surrender to that. So it can be a very, like, I recommend if anyone, I mean, this was a long time ago that I went, and I've heard that it's massively changed since I attended, but to just be in the hustle bustle of so many humans and be able to ground yourself, oh boy,
Mm.
that is exhausting.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. I've never been to India. Like for some reason I haven't felt totally called yet. Like I'm kind of waiting for that to spark. So I love that reflection though, because I mean, this is like me stereotyping the few Indian people that I do know, but they all seem to be very patient people
Mm.
and will like, I dated an Indian guy once and it was just like amazing how he showed up in public with other people and tried to figure things out. It was just like this extreme kind of patience and just, he kept asking questions and asking questions. I was like, you're not supposed to do that. You're wasting people's time. And like, that's my story. But I learned a lot from him as far as like just getting your needs met in a very calm, like patient way. So
Yeah, that's beautiful.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay. So where do we want to go from here? I'm like, we just like let out the bag with us. This is fun. I like when I can do this with certain guests and then just kind of choose what path we want to go down. I guess for me, I'm curious. So you've had like all this kind of life transition and learning how to surrender, and the storm was possibly coming, and then we were just talking about how your boat has had a lot of problems, and so now you've had to be in a rental. um, what would you say is kind of like some of the biggest ways that you've really had to change like your maybe habits, or how have you been able to actually cope with this surrendering? Like what does that look like in action?
That's a great question. I guess a little bit of a backstory is necessary to answer this. So I was living a very happy and fulfilled life in Airdrie, Alberta, Canada. It's a small town just outside of Calgary. And I had my yoga studio, my friends, and my coffee place, and it was very easy. That's what I did. And I
Mm,
worked, and then I went on book tours, and I wrote another book, and I worked, and I did yoga, and I went to the coffee shop, and I saw my friends. And
yeah.
that was the box of my life. And then when I was writing my book, I really got in touch with nature. My husband and I loved being out in nature, and we just said, like, we should do this more. So we got an RV, and then the RV turned in, well, can we live in an RV? And we're like, yeah, people live in RVs. Okay, let's rent out our house and live in an RV. Well, then we couldn't really rent the house, so we ended up selling the house. So I think in this transitionary period, it was very much, I don't have a plan, and I've never
Mhm.
really had a life plan. Like if you ask me in 5 years, what do you plan on doing? I have no
Mhm.
idea what I'm doing tomorrow. So I think in all of that is just that piece was like surrendering to
Mhm.
the unknown and keeping myself open to all possibilities. Like had I not been open to being more in touch with nature, I never would have gotten the RV. We never would have, so it's always being
Mhm.
open to our opportunities is, I think, the very beginning part of surrendering is just like, I surrender this small little view, and I choose to see that there might be something outside of that view, and I'm surrendering to that idea. And so we kept in that. We lived in the RV, everything was good, and we're sitting in Destin, Florida, and we're looking at the ocean, and I asked my husband, Kevin, what do you like more, forest or ocean? And he said ocean. And I said, me too. But in an RV, we can't, like, we're not really by the ocean much. We can't really do the ocean thing. And he's like, yeah. I was like, do people live in sailboats? And at the exact time that I said that, a little sailboat goes, bobbity
Oh
bob
my
bob. And I'm
gosh.
like, okay. And so I think that was
Yeah.
the first level of my surrender. But another huge piece has been when you have zero experience in doing anything, and all of us come
Mhm.
into this world with very limited experience on how to do multiple things, and then we see people when we're 30, 40, 50, like, oh, I wish I knew how to do that, or I wish I could do that. They didn't know how to do that one day. Like they were new at the
Mhm.
beginning. And so when we started sailing, having zero experience, everyone was saying, you're an idiot. Why did you buy a boat in your mid 30s with zero? You've never even been on a boat. Why are you buying this 60-foot boat? And I just said, like, So what, I'm, you know, 33. People do this at 5 years old, at 40 years old, at 10 years old. Like, I can learn how to do this. And so
Yeah.
moving into that space has been a big challenge for me because I like to be good at things. And I think that
Mhm.
that is a huge societal issue that we have of like, we can't show up in life unless we are 100 billion% good at it. And to
Mhm.
just have so much money invested in something that I didn't know how to do, that completely terrified me, that I was being told over and over again I couldn't do, was very
Mhm.
challenging. And I started to control a lot of things. I started having panic attacks, anxiety attacks. It got so bad that when we chose to move the boat one day because it was bad weather, it was literally a kilometer away. Like, we just had to start the engines and move across the water. I had a
Mhm.
complete meltdown. Like, I
Wow.
couldn't, there was just too much, like raising the anchor and all these things and the sails, and I can't do this. My husband's like,
Mhm.
you're not doing well with this. And it continued for
Mm.
months until I had this huge episode. And this is usually like, you always have, at least for me, I have to hit rock bottom before I'm like, oh, hey, maybe I should do something about this. Um,
Yeah.
and our boat ended up hitting another boat because of the wind. There was nothing we could do about it. And I just felt this intense feeling of powerlessness, of just
Mm.
feeling like I cannot do anything. And instead of leaning into that, I fought it and I took it on myself, and it became a huge physical reaction. Um, and then it was just like this, I don't know, this thing switched. And I was like, wait, I don't need to be fighting this. No matter how much I
Mhm.
stress about something, no matter how much I am not prepared for something or prepared for something, when something
Mhm.
happens, I just have to understand that I am who I am in this space. And if I am more centered, I'm going to be able to show up in my best way instead of whatever the heck that was. So
Yeah.
my relationship to surrender now has definitely transformed over the last, I would say, 9 months, to in March of this year, I just started, it was almost like a level of not caring. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
attached to an outcome, and it'll be what it is. It'll
Yeah.
be what it is. And I just
Yeah.
repeated that over and over and over. And so how I'm showing up now with surrender is a lot different than when I first started. You can kind of see it's all surrender, but now I feel like I've hit the Mac Daddy of all of it, of like, at least from what I know now. There could be something else, probably there is, that I don't know yet. But just like
Yeah.
showing up in that space of like, it'll be what it is, and no amount of stressing is going to fix anything. And I remember when we were preparing for Hurricane Dorian, I was looking at two possibilities. One, our boat being completely ruined and us losing everything, and
Yeah.
insurance not covering anything. And then the other one is our boat's fine. And I
Mhm.
completely was okay with both. Like, I got myself in a space, I envisioned both, and I created the same emotion and the same feeling inside my body, regardless of what happened. So we get to keep the boat and sail
Mm.
the Bahamas and live the best life, or we lose all of our money, all of our things, everything, and have nothing. And
Yeah.
how to maintain the same emotional and just detachment from that has
Yeah.
been the ultimate form. And I continue to just like detach. And lately I've been, I guess you would say, praying for help and guidance a
Mhm.
lot,
Mhm.
like a
Mhm.
lot, like tons.
Mhm. Yeah. 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 Wow. Me too, I would say. I'm like, just show me, please, please. Like, it feels like
Yes.
a, yeah, because I'm in a similar place too as you. And I appreciate you so much how openly you share on social media, and even, you know, being open before we decided to do this interview together, that you're in also a business transition of like feeling that out. And I'm in this place right now that's kind of similar, where like I don't know what's next for me. Like nothing feels 100% resonant. And for me, like I have to know and remember that for me, if I am not like 100% in, because I will go all in, like it's just going to be a waste of time. And so um, that's just kind of part of what I wanted to also bring into this conversation. And I'm sure we can get to that in a second, but I first want to point out some of the things that I heard. It's like that, that non-attachment, like, oh my God, I, That is everything. That is so much in life, I feel like, especially when we're going through like tough times. Um, and I love how you said like you just the freak outs don't really serve. It seems like that was kind of like the question that I was hearing. It's like, how is this actually serving me right now? And that's one thing that I usually ask myself too when I'm in the middle of it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have my little like freak out and then come back to that place of like, is this really serving me? And is there anything that I can do?
Mm.
Um, and if not, like, what's the point? I'm just wasting my energy. And I'm with you. People kind of get upset with me when I say like, how can you give less
Yeah.
fucks? Like for me, I need that energy. That's helpful for me when I'm in that place of like caring too much or like attachment. And so for everybody watching, I would say like, if that doesn't resonate with you, like it resonates with us, that non-attachment piece, like how can I just not be attached? How can I really just like hold either of these scenarios gently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something you said too, I think for me, those freakouts were when I held on to a lot of things because I didn't want to feel overwhelmed. I wanted to show that I was strong. As a woman, especially in the boating industry, like I
Mm,
am a rarity to be able to be on a boat. And there aren't a lot of women in our industry. So instantly men see me and they're like, well, do you really know what you're talking about when it comes to engines? So there's all that. And I'm bottling up all this stuff, all this stuff,
yeah.
all this stuff. And then I have a freak out. Now part of that zero fucks given
Mm,
situation is when I feel an emotion, I allow myself to completely embody all of that
mm-hmm.
and then let it pass through me. A really, 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 really amazing book that changed the game for me was Untethered Soul. And
Yeah.
one of my Reiki practitioners, I came to her in like April of this year. She's like, Leanne, you have to read this book because it's everything of what you're struggling with. And it's
Yeah.
very much like when we're in the car and we're seeing all the grass and the trees and everything pass by us, we're not soaking up one specific tree that looked different than all, like it's passing through us really quickly. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we need with all of our life experiences. Soak up the tree, pass it through. But then you see,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, in the book they talk about this car that looked like your partner's car. And is that your partner's car? Where are they going? Are they going to see somebody else? And then all of a sudden you're thinking about this
Mm,
car and you're not looking at any of the other cars around you. So it's really about understanding that you can embody this emotion, fully feel it. And so when somebody is challenging me on engine, like this situation happened the other day, well, do you really
mm-hmm.
understand engines? And then I speak my truth. I'm like, yes, I do. I don't need to
Yeah.
validate myself. Here's what I think the problem is. Here's what we need to do. You good? And so I was able to
Yeah.
completely embody that, communicate what I needed and what I was looking for, and let it go. And so I
Yeah.
think those freakouts that we have and the anxiety and everything is because we're not allowing ourselves to feel what we need to feel in that moment. And instead,
Mm-hmm.
we're just letting it all, like for me, it was like all these little pockets. And then I would have like these outbursts because I wasn't fully embodying what I needed to feel in the moments that I needed to feel them. So I think that's a
Yeah.
lot of it as well, at least for my own experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would take it one step further that like part of the main basis of the work that I do in helping women in visibility and leadership is really saying, okay, well, why didn't you allow yourself? It's because of these identities that we like cling on to, or like we're so afraid of how people are going to see us. And so it's really owning these pieces, like all the full range of whatever we're feeling, whatever's authentic. And that translates to life and business. And it's just like that for me is ultimate freedom. Like,
Yes.
right? It's like that inner freedom. I never finished Untethered Soul for some reason. It's like everybody around me loves that book, and I started it, and I was like, boring. I don't know why. I must have been like in a phase of my life where I was just like being a snob of like, I've already learned this. Nah.
It just
Like,
wasn't that you just weren't ready for it. I have books like that too. And then I pick it up years later, like
yeah.
New Earth. I hated that book the
Oh,
first time.
really?
I
Oh
was
my
like,
God,
I
I
don't
gobbled it up.
understand this. It's so ridiculous. And then I picked it up a
Yeah.
couple months ago. I was like, this is pure magic. So you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
It's true. I know. Well, I have a thing of like, if something doesn't seem deep enough or like have a new idea, like I definitely have that like complex of like, oh, I already know this. which is like,
So like,
I
what
have
does
to,
that say? Like, you need to like, what does that say about me?
exactly.
I'm the same.
Well, is it really? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I already know this. And then I'm like, Leanne, you don't know everything. Like, take a step back. And then like literally as soon as I go through that, they say something that I needed to hear. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
This is a life lesson. It doesn't happen so much anymore, but it did, especially last year. I got my ego kicked for sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Are you into astrology at all?
I'm getting into it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm definitely not like an astrology buff like most of my friends.
Yeah. Well, I was like kind of always into it, but then I had a private client who is a really amazing astrologer. She's been one for like 25 years. And so just coaching her was like such a gift because I learned so much and got all like nerdy. And I wonder if so there's this thing called the South Node and North Node, and it's like, all geometry and mathematics for astrology. And so there's like a measurement on your chart where the South Node is kind of like this point of everything that you come into this life with. And then the North Node is everything that you're moving towards, like what you're learning. So mine, and I'd be curious if this is yours, my South Node is Sagittarius, which is like the learner, the like self-expressive, the teacher, the like, I know everything basically. Like, oh, I already know that. I already know that. I've already learned that. I've read this article and like, I can tell you 1, 2, 3, steps 1, 2, 3. And yet the growth is Gemini, which is like open mind and like seeing both sides and like not having attachment to what you know. And which is, so it's so interesting, right? Like I consider myself a super open-minded person when it's convenient for me
For you?
to.
Yeah. I felt like that was a massive lesson in my 20s. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, that kicked me to the curb multiple times. I'm not so much like that anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I've gotten to the phase now that I go into everything thinking I know nothing and then being surprised when I come up with something. Like, and not relying, I think too, being on so many book tours and events and stuff like that, I can't know everything. Like I can't know everything. So sometimes I go in there with like no expectations, and sometimes I'm being called to say certain things to certain people, like, ooh, this just came to my mind, this certain thing. But I know that I don't know everything and will never know everything, and rely on so many amazing humans and other things to like bring me that information as a conduit, because like you just can't know everything. So that was definitely a lesson I learned in my 20s. So like, don't assume you know anything about anything.
Totally. And like having that perspective is so helpful because then you're really able to connect, in a way that is like even more powerful than if, like, I don't know. And that's one of my like highest values. It's really important for me to feel connected to people, like even when I'm meeting them the first time, like I just want to like connect heart to heart and have that meaningful connection. So I feel like that's like a gateway, right? Is really like releasing all expectations and just being open to what could happen or
Totally, I agree.
Yeah. So I want to get into a little bit around, so you've written 2 books.
3.
And you've had 3? Oh my gosh. 3, girl. Okay. So tell us about like, and I know you're also in this questioning of like, okay, what's next for me? Because you've done these 3 books. So tell us a little bit about like the 3 books and like how that all, whatever feels present to you. You don't have to like share your whole story, but what feels present to you in now being a 3-time book mama, and then where you're heading and how you're kind of feeling into what's next for you. That's a big question. Sorry.
Where are you going? What's happening? I don't know. Who's driving this car? Not me. So I studied holistic nutrition in 2007, and it took me many years, like 7 years, to find my voice in the nutrition space and to find out what I needed to share in that moment. And I think that was happening because I experienced an eating disorder for most of my life, anorexia, bulimia, orthorexia, in and out of hospital care and all the things. And so it wasn't until I was willing to heal myself that I found my voice and I knew what I needed to share. And that was the healing ability of the ketogenic diet. At that point, I hadn't had a period in 8 years. My
Oh my
hormones
gosh,
were massive.
8?
Eight,
Wow.
8 years.
Whoa.
My hormones were massively struggling. I had been diagnosed with early onset menopause. My skin was really saggy. I had massive acne. I was gaining a bunch of weight. Like, I was a hot mess. And I started eating keto. I got off my ADHD medication. I didn't have to take any hormonal forms of anything in order to get my hormones back online. I did take desiccated thyroid for a period of time, a DHEA for a period of time, but just use the ketogenic diet and high fat to get my hormones back to a good level. And throughout learning that, I learned that there is the right way to do this low carb, high fat thing, and there is the wrong way to do the low carb, high fat thing. And most people would then say, my way is the right way. But what I found is the wrong way is everyone else's way but your own. And then that kind of snowballed into, well, wait a minute, I feel like all nutrition protocols need to be geared toward the individual. And that, you know, if you're embarking on a low carb, high fat diet, what does that mean to you? What do you need? Where are your hormones at? So that kind of fueled the fire of wanting to come out with the very first The Keto Diet book, talking about how it's really important to honor yourself, honor your body. And it was supposed to be one book that turned into this vision of 3 books. And so I finished the trilogy after the cookbook one. I finished it with Keto for Women, which is really empowering women to take their health into their own hands. Now, at this point, it was physical health, a little bit of mental health, but mostly physical health. How to adjust different macros and micronutrients in order to get your health back. And then when I had my own personal mental health crisis in March 2019, I was like, wait a minute. I haven't really talked about sexual health, spiritual health, mental health. This is a huge part to it, and I have not addressed this. And I went on my last book tour, which was very bittersweet to know, like, this is the last tour that I'll be going on as the keto queen. Like, people refer to me as the Queen of Keto. Like, this is a big, it has become my identity. It's something that I'm so passionate about, and I continue to eat keto. I believe in a high-fat diet for those that align with. I have turned into a different human being, eating enough fat, but I'm more than that. And I think that as coaches and business, like humans, we align with a specific thing, whether it be I'm vegan, or I'm a meditation teacher, or I'm a yoga teacher, or I'm a chef, and that becomes your identity. So like, a chef doesn't eat at McDonald's, what the heck? Or, you know, a yoga teacher doesn't do CrossFit. Well, why not? And so there's so much more to us than these small little work identities that we've created. And that's been very challenging for me to communicate to my followers. I think it would have been very easy to just continue to share keto stuff. And I, over the end there, like most of this year, I've just been like keto, 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 keto. And like, my heart just isn't in it because I feel like there's so much more I want to share. So my husband and I chatted, and this is our only income. That, you know, Kevin quit his job 3 years ago. I quit mine 6 years ago to do Healthful Pursuit full time. And so it's scary, you know, when your livelihood and everything that you've built up needs to pivot for your own benefit. And it's a lot easier when you're pivoting and your partner has a full-time job, and you can, like, you know, cushion that with like some income. And this is very much like, we go from this much income to this much income in the span of 2 weeks. And just having that faith and the trust, surrender, really huge. And knowing, like, and hoping to God or divine or universe or whatever you believe in, that this will work out. But I just keep getting the message. There is not one time in my life where when I've led myself through authenticity and vulnerability that it hasn't worked out. When I am authentic and vulnerable and I open my heart, like all sides,
Mhm.
because I've been dealing with a lot of back pain because I'm not opening that part of my heart back there. So, like,
Yeah.
opening it all up, letting it pass through me, and knowing that whoever is now seeing this new light needs to see that light, is going to be inspired by that light and want to be part of what I'm building. What am I
Yeah.
building? I don't actually know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I've been dealing with a lot of lessons on love and letting love in and understanding the heart. So I'm very much being called to focus on love, what love means, how love can show up in different forms, how to see
Mhm.
love in
Mhm.
everyday experiences and other people. So I'm starting a podcast all dedicated to love that's going to start in a couple of weeks, hopefully. I'm
Oh
just
my God, I
planning it
love it.
all. Yeah, yeah. So I'm really excited about that. And I just don't know where it's going to go. I started
Mhm.
hosting meditation classes and workshops through my website. And I mean, a lot of people have been interested. Our first one, we had over 300 students. And I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
what? 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 Okay, this
Yeah.
is happening. But
Yeah.
I think, when you get so stuck, and it wasn't even stuck. I love Healthful Pursuit. I love keto. I love what I've done, and that doesn't
Yeah.
make it any less valid. And I still
No.
love it, and I'll still talk about it. But it's like
Mhm.
there's something very much like that. I imagine like looking through like a toilet paper roll. Like there's, you see all this stuff, but there's all this stuff going on outside. And when you get that tunnel
Mm.
vision, you can't see all that other stuff. So right now I'm looking without the toilet paper roll, and I'm like, what feels
Yeah.
good? What lights me up? Because
Yeah.
if you're lit up and you're leading with that authenticity and vulnerability, it lights other people up and it changes things. And I
Yeah.
just
Absolutely.
firmly believe you can make a job doing that. You can make a career being a lit up individual, living your authentic truth. And other people will just support you because you're allowing their light to, like, you're showing them that they can shine their light. So I don't know
Yes.
where that'll head, where it's going.
Oh my gosh. But okay, let's just pause. Because I just so want to honor you. Like this is one of my favorite topics. And I know I was telling you that before when we were scheduling this interview. I was like, yes, please, let's talk about this because so many people don't give themselves permission to actually call the first chapter of their business complete when it is complete. And then, like you were saying, like, yeah, maybe it would have been easy to keep sharing like all the keto stuff. But what you also knew was that your heart was not completely in it and it's like shifting out of it. And so I think so many people, like, out of fear, actually continue to do what they think is the easy thing, what they think people want to keep hearing from them, when it's actually no longer theirs to share. And they have like a next level of evolution that they're being called to. And it's like so normal and natural in entrepreneurship, especially when you're dedicated to the spiritual path. And that's like one of the main reasons that I created this show, is so we could talk about things like this. Like, it is normal to evolve and to grow. And the more that you grow, the more that your business is going to grow too. So guess what? That means changing. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not discounting that it's hard, or that it's like not hard,
Terrifying.
because it's so terrifying. And I'm like the queen of change. Like had so many businesses. Like I started as self-care coach, and then I was a relationship coach, and then I focused just on video, and now like, and then I was like broadening into visibility, and now I'm like, I'm in a phase where I'm like, actually, I feel called back to how I started, which was helping both business owners and professional women around the topics of visibility and leadership. Like, why would I just help entrepreneurs when I was a professional woman for 10 years? And like, I feel really passionate about that, and visibility applies to all paths.
Every
So,
single one. Totally. Yeah.
yeah.
I think we see so many women, especially, that have been in their roles. Like, there are a couple that come to mind, and they've always been doing the same thing since I started
Hmm.
Healthful Pursuit back in 2008. Like, they are
Yeah.
still doing the same thing. And I think of
Yes,
like the Marie Forleos, and I'm like, oh
I
my
know.
gosh, like, I mean, she shares beautiful information all the time. I
Mhm.
I am such, like, my life has changed so much over the last 5 years. It's ridiculous to
Yeah.
think that I could show up professionally in the same way And I think
Mm-hmm.
that fear stopped me for a really long time. And it's stop and go. Like this week
Yeah.
has been like a very empowering week where I'm like, yeah, go get some. But last week I was like, no, I think I'll just write another keto book. It's so much easier. I'm terrified. How are we going to pay for this and our boat and this and bills?
Right.
How am I going to do this? I made $80 today. How am I going to do this?
Yeah.
You know, like that's
Right. Real life. Yeah.
life stuff. Like, how are you going to pay your bills?
Mm-hmm.
And that's I don't know the answer to that question because I haven't
Yeah.
figured it out yet. But there's actually a book I just finished reading by Gabrielle Bernstein, The Super Attractor. Have you read it?
No, I haven't yet.
It's good. She one of the big ones that I took away from it was asking questions or signs from the universe. And this is not
Mm-hmm.
something that I thought that I could do. Like I
Mm-hmm.
guess because I grew up in such a strong Catholic household, we were taught
Mm-hmm.
like never to question God. So we could never like
Mm.
ask questions of God of like, hey God, if you're real, show me a heart in the next 24 hours on somebody's t-shirt. Like you would never do that. That's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's gotta be a sin. I was told never to do it. And
Yeah.
so in the Super Attractor book, she says like, ask, like say,
Mm-hmm.
am I on the right path? Like I need guidance. Am
Yeah.
I on the right path? Like I'm just paraphrasing. Am I on the right path with this, that, and the other thing? If I am, show me an infinity symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And I did this the other day with the boat stuff because we've had so many, oh my gosh, like it's just like, it's crazy. Like every time we try to go, it's like, nope, you're meant to stay here. Go, nope,
Yeah.
you're meant to stay here. And it's like, are we on the right path? Like at this point, it's been 2 years. Like, should we sell the boat? Like, are we on the right path?
Mm-hmm.
Universe, please give me a sign of an infinity symbol. And like my body was moving in an infinity symbol way. Like it was very much like, I need an infinity symbol in the next
Wow.
24 hours. That way I know that we're on the right path with the boat. And
Yeah.
I kid you not, 1 minute before 24 hours, like I'm looking at my clock and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. I turn the corner and there's this huge billboard, huge, with an infinity symbol and nothing else on it. And I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
that is nuts. So I think if you feel lost and you've lost your faith and you don't know how it's going to all work, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know either, but I firmly believe that if we ask for help and a
Yeah.
sign, it will very much show up. And if you don't get a
Mm-hmm.
sign, that's a sign too. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, that was a really cool thing that happened.
Yeah. I love that story. I'm such a fan of signs, and my partner kind of teases me sometimes because I'm like,
Mine too.
that means that. And like, I mean, it's fun, right? To also like live your life like that. Like I mean, hey, if it helps, like, then yes, like, why not use all those tools, and why not get joy out of like receiving information from the universe? I I'm laughing right now thinking of like, oh God, where we're at right now. You know, we're going into like our third month of not having a place. And I knew we were supposed to be back in Vegas. I knew it like hardcore in my body for like a year. And like, you know, having a partner is one thing. And like, so finally that happened by us like um getting not kicked out. I don't know why I want to say kicked out, but told that we need to leave like our place in Santa Cruz because she was selling the house that we were living at. And so I was like, all right, universe, if like, you know, he doesn't come willingly, thank you for kicking us out.
Yeah.
And I was getting signs, and people were telling me that I was supposed to buy a house. Like I was getting all these crazy signs. I'm like, what? Like I'm not like in a place to buy a house. And like, you know, like that just seems crazy. And but what that did for me was that opened me up to the realization that we didn't have to, because I was thinking like financially, oh, we'll have to get like, you know, an apartment or something, like, because we're both entrepreneurs, you know, um and I'm so with you. Like it's like those expansive, like, oh yay, we made a lot of money. Oh man, we didn't
Oh
make any
man.
money this month, right? Like, and it's just such a ride. And so my like limited perception was like, in my mind was like, we're gonna have to get an apartment. And but then all those signs and all those people like essentially telling me that I was supposed to buy a house opened me up to say, well, why can't we rent a house? Like,
Yeah.
duh, like how much is it to rent a house in Vegas? Turns out like you can find places that are like similar to apartment prices. So it hasn't been easy though, because now we have this like vision and it's very clear. And so I think what I've learned in this is that like, and we even just applied and like our application didn't get chosen next to somebody else's. So that was like devastating after so much of like looking for what we want. And we're just so clear that I think sometimes when we are so clear, you know, even if it's like a feeling that we're like clear about, like whatever that clarity is, right? Like when we know how we want to feel or what that vision looks like, sometimes it's just the longer, more trusting road, I believe. Like, and I don't think that like manifesting teachers would tell you it's actually the opposite. But
Yes.
I would say sometimes, like if you really want to hold strong to like what you desire, I believe the universe wants to bring that to you. And sometimes it's just a matter of learning a bunch of lessons along the way. What are your thoughts on that, Leanne?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. I think my lesson right now has like been how to not like I've been very much a desired like I know what I want, I know how to get it, I know what I need, and I just need to sit here in patience until that thing comes. I'm really good at that. What I'm
Yeah.
not good at and what's happening in my life right now is like I don't know what I want. I don't know what it looks like. I don't have a desire. I'm just in this limbo space. And
Yeah,
so
really
I
same.
totally agree with you. When you're very clear on what you want and what you,
Mhm.
the feeling that you want to feel, I think that's what I've learned is like, it's not so much
Mhm.
what I want, but it's what I want to feel when I
Yeah.
have that thing. So like, you
Mhm.
know, when it was the sailboat, it was like, I want to feel freedom, connection to Mother Earth. I want, you know, like all these things
Yeah.
that created that manifest. And I was very clear. Like I wrote down to like the upholstery color on our boat. Like
Whoa.
that
That's awesome.
detailed. Like I knew exactly what I wanted. But on the flip
Mhm.
side is like with all this stuff that we're talking about and all this stuff you read, it's always like
Mhm.
manifest this and manifest that. And it's like they assume that you
Mhm.
know exactly what you want all the time and you have your desires. I think that there are periods of our life, and I'm living it right now, where I don't
Yeah.
know what I want. I don't know
Yeah.
where I need to be. And I think that that is displaying in my world right now. I'm in this
Mhm.
limbo place and creating more of this limbo place because I haven't decided what I
Yeah.
want. And I, like you said, I think maybe before we started the recording, like being pulled in a bunch of different directions. Um,
Mhm.
when you're being pulled in a bunch of different directions, the meditation has been pivotal for me lately.
Mhm.
Because I think what we are dealing with internally, we see externally. And I keep
Yeah.
seeing chaos in all these different places because I haven't figured out how to like center all of that yet. And
Yeah.
I think that there's something so powerful in that, and I'm just seeing it as like, okay, I'm learning this other space. But I agree with you when you're very clear on it. I've come up with
Mhm.
huge manifestos, like page long, of like, here's what I'm
Mhm.
gonna feel, here's what we're gonna be doing, here's what my dogs are gonna be doing, here's what I'm gonna be wearing, like down to like weather, like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that is so cool. Like when I manifest from that place, there is no doubt that I will have that thing. Like I
Mm.
manifested our boat in 2 months and I stared in the mirror every day and was like, this is going to happen. Like, it's going to happen.
Wow.
And it did.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I so resonate with that place that you're into of like, because even though we're clear of like the house, like I feel like I'm being taught like I can't always have what I want, which feels like like I'm super privileged and I grew up in a family where I never, it's not like we were like we didn't even really go on vacations or anything. So we didn't live like a high class life, but like I never, didn't have food on the table and like clothes and nice things. And I went to college and got a good, career and made great money in corporate. And I'm just in this weird place where the last few years I lost two of my best friends. And it's just kind of been like this like dip of like just how can I be in that space and like still be happy and be like fulfilled even if things don't look the way that I think that I want them. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Hmm.
the privilege piece is like huge, huge. And I've
Yeah.
been leaning into that a lot more. We grew up not very comfortable like
Mm.
financially. And so I remember my mom like opening up the freezer, praying that there would be food in there, and sometimes there wasn't.
Oh my
So like
gosh. Wow.
I definitely have this lack story that I've been working through lately of like fear of losing everything and going back to that place. But I think when we're manifesting or we're not sure on what we want, even just manifesting whatever and saying, or something better, because sometimes it's like we're not going to get that thing that we think we want, but we can ask for something better. So it may not be our vision. And I think that's when the universal signs of, you know, like maybe you set up a symbol of your house. Like when I see the house that we're meant to be in, I'm going to see, I don't know, a star or something. Like there'll be stars in a bedroom or star, you know, like whatever that symbol is. And then if you go into this house and there's like stars on the wallpaper and like stars on the, like in the art, and like, okay, like I think maybe this is the house. So you can ask, that's what I've been starting to do. You can like ask for guidance, and it might not be exactly what you thought, but you're saying, or something better. And you have to believe that that something better is that thing. So yeah, it takes so much faith and trust.
So much trust. Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing for me is like, and probably for a lot of people, you know, all these things that we're talking about, like brings up a lot of survival things. And so I know for me, I have to go to that place of like asking myself, and you kind of touched on this, like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? Like for me, that really helps put things into perspective and then say, okay, so what if that did happen? Like I have people that love me. I'm never going to go hungry. Thank God. Like, wow, you know, lots of people do. Like there's always options. They may not be the best options. I might feel like shitty about myself or tell myself a story, you know, that like I failed or I'm not good enough or worthy or whatever we can like get into our head around, but it's just simply not true. It's like the more that we can just lean into, and this is where I think community also comes in huge, right? Like how can we surround ourselves with people that even when we're not feeling like we're at our best state or best season of our life, like they can just really see us in our highest. So helpful.
It is so helpful. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, for sure. I think having a sense of community and also understanding as you start to uncover more of yourself, some of the people that you used to connect with are no longer serving you, and those relationships, like that's another part to this work. It's just like understanding that they're just people that are going to come and go in your life, and people that you'll reconnect with later, or maybe you won't. But just I read this quote the other day, paraphrasing again, but it was sort of like, look at your relationships and understand that some of those relationships are there because at the time of meeting those people, they were filling a void of something that you had provided yourself, probably love. And so now that you are incorporating more love in your life, more love for yourself, more respect for yourself, less betrayal of yourself. There's a lot of self-betrayal in a lot of the activities that we do on a daily basis. When you start to show up for yourself, a lot of those people who you had in your life no longer need to feel those voids because they're no longer voids. And so who do you have in your life that actually sees you and wants you to be abundant? Because there were many people and continue to be people in my life that want to see me fail because they feel better when I fail. And so who are those people? Because if you're going to them saying this, that, and the other thing, and they're like, yeah, well, isn't that, you know, I had somebody the other day like, oh, woe is you, your fancy boat with your meditation room in it is sinking. And I'm like, how insensitive, like that's
horrible.
Okay, you know, like how, you know, that's their own stuff, and totally. But understanding that there are people in your life that want to see you be abundant and you want to see them flourish, and there are people in your life that aren't, and they were there to fill a void that you no longer have. So I'm so glad you touched on that, because that's like a huge piece. If you have like like not great people in your life, it makes it very challenging to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, it comes back to that whole like being around people is like the biggest spiritual path.
Oh man, I mean, in partners, you talked about it too. It's like, I know in my body certain things that my husband Kevin's probably going to take a couple years. Like, I know things, like I just know it. And sometimes I tell him, he gets really stressed out. He's like, what the heck? We just started doing this. And I'm like, yeah, like it's not going to happen now. And he's like, I can't even, so I don't
Yeah.
even bring it up. But like, I
Yeah.
think too, when you have that partner, oh my gosh, sometimes he gets under my skin. Like I just,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, but it's like the best, it's the best, that human is there to do that so that we can focus on
Totally.
ourselves and see the reactions that we have. And that's such a gift to have that human that sees you and supports
Yeah.
you through all of this.
Yeah. So much yes. Oh my gosh. Well, we only have a few more minutes, so I want to, I feel like we barely scratched the
Oh my gosh, right?
surface.
We talked
Right? I'm
about
like,
it for more hours.
yeah, totally. I'm excited to connect more with you. But for this interview, do you have just kind of any last words, anything that you'd like to share that I didn't ask you to end on?
Yeah, I think, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, is I guess if anyone's listening that's currently going through a transition and not really sure of where they're supposed to be, it can be hard to go on social media and other outlets and kind of see all these people that have their stuff together. Know that no matter who you're looking at right now, they don't have everything together and they're struggling just like you are in certain areas. And the most powerful thing you can do is lead with vulnerability and be open with the people that you trust or just random human beings to say like, this is where I'm at right now. And you will
Yeah,
always, always be blown away at how much support you will get by being open and honest to people. And that's
yeah,
been my experience. And that's how I show up on my Instagram and Facebook and website. Not really the website because I don't really write much anymore, but on Instagram, especially of like, my life is a
yeah,
mess right now. And just
yeah,
being completely open and honest, you'll find that you will get a sense of community if you don't have those people in your life. You can find them online. That's what's so beautiful about the internet, and know that you are not alone and that it's okay to
mhm,
have fear, because we all do. No matter where we are in our
yeah,
life, we have that fear. And I think seeing that in other people can be really inspiring to know that you're not alone. So
yeah.
know that I see you, I hear you, I'm with you. And if you want to learn more, you can just go to my Instagram, Healthful Pursuit, and you'll see the mess that is my life.
And I so appreciate how you show up. Like I was saying, I was browsing your Instagram this morning and I was like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. Because I'm always, always, always encouraging people to come from that place and share from that vulnerability because that's the heart connection. So
Yes.
thank you for being you, Leanne. And you are such a bright, beautiful human being. And I so appreciate your vulnerability and honesty and authenticity. And you're like, I love how you hold it all. Like you come to this interview and just kind of shine and you're real. And yet you don't let that, totally um, consume you. Like I like how we can hold both. Like it's both.
Yes.
It can be hard and exhilarating at the same time.
Exactly. Exactly. And you can
Yeah.
be both. You can totally have that mess and also the
Yeah.
tranquility. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much for
so
having me
much.
on.
You're so welcome. And you all can find, we'll put all the links over in the show notes. This is episode 33. So it'll be at jessicatomlinson.com/show-33. Cool number. Speaking of fun. So, all right. See you guys in the next episode. Bye.